Fear and love are not opposites. That is the thing that most people get wrong about this. They imagine that love in its truest and most complete form arrives without fear, that the realness of a feeling is proven by the absence of the terror that accompanies it. That if someone loves you and is also afraid, the fear is evidence of something wrong with the love, something incomplete, something that has not yet matured into the certainty that real love is supposed to carry. That is not what fear and love means. What it actually means, what it means when the fear and the love arrive together in the specific, simultaneous, completely inseparable way that they have arrived in this person, is that the stakes are real, that the love has found something worth being terrified of losing, that the feeling is large enough and genuine enough and completely enough that the thought of its loss produces a response proportionate to the magnitude of what would be lost. You are what would be lost, and this person, sitting with the most complete love they have felt in a long time, possibly ever, possibly in the specific way that only arrives once in a person's life if they are fortunate, is terrified of losing you with an intensity that is directly and precisely proportionate to how much they love you. The fear is not a flaw in the love. The fear is the love's most honest measurement of its own size. What they feel is enormous, and they need you to know it. Both parts of it, the love and the fear, held together, offered to you in the specific, vulnerable completeness of a person who has decided that honesty matters more than protection, and that you deserve the full truth of what you mean to them, even if the full truth includes the parts that make them look less than invulnerable. Drop the word only in the comments right now and subscribe to this channel if you are not already here. Because what is coming from this person, the most complete and most frightened and most completely yours declaration I have seen in these cards in a long time, is going to ask something significant from you. And I want you to understand exactly what it is asking and exactly why it deserves your most generous and most open response. Let me begin where the feeling began. Not with the love as it exists now in its fully developed, completely certain, I am in love with you form, with the beginning of it. The moment or the accumulation of moments through which a person arrived at a love this size without entirely planning to. This person came into your orbit without expecting to feel what they felt. That is the first thing the cards are showing me about their history with this. They were not looking, not in the specific sense of a person who has closed themselves to love, but in the ordinary sense of someone who was simply living their life engaged with what they were engaged with, moving through their days with whatever combination of satisfaction and restlessness and ordinary human forward motion characterizes a life that is functioning but not particularly open at the moment to the particular disruption of falling. And then something happened. Not a dramatic something in their own experience, probably something that seemed at the time like simply a moment, an interaction, a quality of your presence in a particular exchange that found something in them they did not know was findable, that reached past the ordinary exterior of two people navigating the ordinary territory of early acquaintance and landed somewhere specific and personal and startling in its accuracy. You saw something in them. That is what I keep feeling when I look at the beginning of this. You saw something that they were not showing, something they had perhaps forgotten was there to be seen, or had stopped expecting anyone to notice, or had learned to keep sufficiently below the surface that most people in their life moved past it without encountering it. And whatever you did with what you saw, however you responded to it, whatever you said or did not say, however you simply were in the face of having encountered it, it communicated to them something that they had stopped expecting to receive. They were visible to you, really accurately, completely visible in the place where they actually lived, rather than in the place they usually presented themselves as living. And that visibility, the experience of being truly seen by someone who clearly knew what they were looking at, is what started it. The thing that began the falling before they knew falling was what they were doing. I want to describe the falling itself, the process of it, because it did not happen in a moment. It happened in accumulations, in the specific way that real things tend to happen, layering themselves quietly until the weight of what has accumulated becomes undeniable. There was a first layer of warmth, simply that warmth, the particular temperature of their experience when you were present versus when you were not. A quality that their ordinary life did not consistently produce, and that they began, without consciously deciding to, orienting themselves toward, seeking out the interactions, finding reasons to be in the context where you were, noticing in the spaces between a slight lowering of temperature that they could not fully account for, and that they were not yet ready to account for accurately. Then came the layer of admiration, the specific, detailed, growing admiration of someone who is paying genuine attention to another person and finding with every additional piece of information that what they are paying attention to is more than they initially understood. The way you handled something difficult, the specific quality of your loyalty to the people you love, the humor that arrived in moments that needed it, the precision of your thinking and the warmth that never left it regardless of how precise it got. They were accumulating you, storing the details, building without intending to, a picture that was becoming, with every new detail, more specific and more compelling and more impossible to file under something casual. Then came the layer that changed everything. The layer where admiration and warmth and the specific quality of your presence in their life coalesced into something that was simply too large and too specific to be called anything other than what it was. The layer where they were lying awake at some point in the particular honesty of late at night or early morning when the mind is too tired for its usual management, and the truth arrived with a completeness that precluded argument. They were in love with you, not moving toward love, not potentially, conditionally, in the right circumstances love, in love with the specific, complete, this is the word and there is no smaller word, kind of certainty that arrives when a feeling has finally become too real to be described in anything less than its full weight. Now I want to talk about the fear, because the fear is as present as the love and as real and as important to understand if you are going to receive what this person brings with the full quality of understanding it deserves. The fear is not fear of you. I want to make that very clear because it matters for how you interpret everything that follows. They are not afraid of who you are or of what being with you would require or of the real and complicated and fully human experience of loving someone as particular as you. They are afraid of the loss of you, of the specific, concrete, imagine your life without this possibility of a world in which what exists between you is not what they hope it is, in which the love they have arrived at is not met in kind, in which the enormous thing they have been building in their interior for all this time turns out to be something they are holding alone. That fear, the fear of unrequited, the fear of loving without being loved, back in the specific and complete way that you love is what has kept this declaration from arriving before now, not cowardice. Something more human and more understandable than cowardice. The specific terror of someone who has found something genuinely precious and who understands with complete clarity what losing it would cost, because they know what the loss would feel like. They have imagined it probably more times than they would choose to admit. In the quiet moments when the fear is loudest, when the uncertainty of whether the love is returned is most present, when the not knowing is most difficult to live with, they have allowed themselves to feel briefly, and in the way of a person steeling themselves against a possibility, what a life without you in it would be. And what they have found in that imagining is not the manageable sadness of a disappointment. It is the specific, profound, this would change the shape of everything kind of loss that only comes when the thing you are imagining losing has become genuinely essential. You are essential to them. The fear is the proof of it. Let me speak to what specifically they are afraid of losing, because it is not general. It is precise, and naming the specifics will tell you something about how clearly they see you and how specifically their love is directed at the actual you rather than a projection or an idealization. They are afraid of losing your presence, the specific quality of being in your company, the way that everything in their experience of a day or a conversation or an ordinary moment is different when you are in it from how it is when you are not. The particular calibration that your presence performs on their interior life, the settling, the warming, the specific quality of being more themselves that they experience when you are near, losing that is not a small loss. It is the loss of something that has become, in the time they have known you, a reference point for what good feels like. They are afraid of losing your mind, the specific, irreplaceable quality of your thinking and what it does to their thinking when they encounter it, the conversations that go somewhere real, the perspective that shifts things, the humor that arrives from angles they did not see coming and that produces a quality of delight they cannot find elsewhere, the intellectual companionship, the rarest of things, the most undervalued of things that your specific mind offers, their specific mind, in a way that has made every other conversation feel slightly less alive by comparison. They are afraid of losing the version of themselves they are when they are with you. This is the deepest layer of the fear and the most revealing, because it tells you that what you have given them is not just the experience of an extraordinary person from the outside, it is access to a better version of themselves from the inside. The version that is more honest, more present, more capable of genuine feeling, more willing to be fully seen. The version that exists in your company and that they are not entirely sure how to sustain in your absence. You have made them better by being in their life. And the thought of your absence is the thought of losing not just you, but the best version of themselves that your presence enables. What has this person been doing with all of this? With the love and the fear held simultaneously in the specific, exhausting, completely vulnerable way of someone who is carrying both without the relief of expression. They have been living with it, quietly, with more grace than the situation deserves, honestly, because living with a love this size and a fear this real without any release of either is genuinely hard, and they have managed it with a dignity that you have probably observed without fully knowing its source. The composure they maintain around you, the way they are present and warm and genuinely engaged without letting the full extent of what they feel become visible. The discipline of someone who is containing something enormous because the conditions for its expression have not yet felt safe enough, but the conditions are changing. Something has shifted in their own readiness, in the urgency produced by the length of time this has been carried, in the simple calculation of how much longer the carrying can continue before the cost of it exceeds the risk of the saying. And what the shift has produced is a decision, the same decision that everyone eventually arrives at when they have loved something long enough in private that the loving in private, whatever its virtues of self-protection, is no longer sufficient. That the thing they feel deserves to exist in the open between two people rather than only in the closed interior of one. They are going to tell you. The declaration that is in the title of this reading, I am in love with you, I am scared to lose you, I want you and only you, is not hypothetical. It is real and it is forming and it is coming towards you with the specific momentum of something that has been held back for too long and can no longer be reasonably contained. And the fear is going to be visible in the telling. That is the most important thing I want to prepare you for. They are not going to be composed when they say this. They are not going to deliver it with the practiced ease of someone who has said this kind of thing many times and knows how to make it land well. They are going to say it with shaking hands, metaphorically speaking, with the specific vulnerability of someone who is putting everything on the table at once and has no strategy for what happens if the table does not hold. The shaking is not weakness. The shaking is love at its most honest and most complete. Now I want to speak to you directly about what this moment is going to require from you and about what you already carry toward this person that you may not have fully acknowledged yet. You feel something. I want to say that plainly because I think you need to hear it said plainly rather than arrived at indirectly. Around this person, in the specific quality of your attention to them and your orientation toward them and the way they surface in your thoughts. In moments when you have not specifically directed your thinking toward them, you feel something. Something that has been accumulating in the same way that their feeling has been accumulating. Something that has the same quality of being more than what you have been calling it. Something that, if you were to sit with it honestly in the specific honesty of your own private late night or early morning truth-telling, would reveal itself as being closer to the word they are about to use than you have previously allowed yourself to recognize. You are in love with them too, or moving toward it with a proximity that makes the distinction largely academic, and the declaration that is coming, the vulnerable, frightened, I want you and only you declaration of someone who has finally decided that honesty is worth the risk, is going to give you permission to stop managing that recognition and simply let it be what it is. Let it be what it is. When they tell you they are in love with you, do not receive it from behind your composure. Do not manage your response into something careful and measured and appropriate to the gravity of the occasion. Do not protect yourself from the full impact of hearing someone you love tell you they love you by staying slightly above the emotion of the moment. Be in it, fully, completely, with the same vulnerability they are bringing, with the specific courage of someone who has decided that being fully present in a moment, this real, is more important than managing how they appear in it. Tell them the truth, your truth, whatever it is in its fullest form. Not the managed version, not the version that protects you from the risk of being wrong about what you feel, not the version that leaves enough ambiguity for retreat, The true version, the one that lives underneath the management, and that this moment, with its specific quality of genuine human honesty, deserves to encounter. Let me tell you what becomes available when two people who love each other and are afraid of losing each other finally say so simultaneously. When the mutual vulnerability arrives in the same space at the same time, and both people discover, in the moment of saying and receiving, that they were never as alone in this as the fear made them think. What becomes available is relief of a magnitude that is difficult to describe to someone who has not experienced it. The specific, profound, full-body relief of having carried something heavy for a long time and setting it down in another person's hands and finding that their hands are strong enough to hold it. The relief of not being alone in the feeling, of having the love be a shared thing rather than a private thing, of moving from the isolation of carrying something enormous in private to the company of carrying it together. What becomes available is a relationship built on the most honest possible beginning, because what they are offering you, what they are about to lay in the space between you, is themselves in their most unguarded form. The love and the fear together, without the softening of the fear or the managing of the love, simply as they actually are in the full complexity of a real person's real feeling. And a relationship that begins with that quality of honesty has a foundation that most relationships spend years trying to build their way toward. You would be starting there, at the honest place, at the real place, at the place where two people have already seen each other's most vulnerable truth and chosen each other anyway, which is the only kind of choosing that lasts. What becomes available is being someone's only, not in the possessive, limiting sense, in the specific, personal, I have looked at everything available to me and what I want is you sense. The sense that carries with it not the closing of doors, but the deliberate, conscious, completely voluntary walking through one specific door, because what is on the other side of it is more worth having than anything available behind any other. They want you and only you. The only is not a cage. It is a choice. The clearest and most specific choice a person can make about another person, that of everything and everyone, this is the one. You are the one. There is one thing I want to leave you with as we close this reading, one thing that has been present in the energy of everything I have described and that wants to be said in the plainest possible language before we are done. Love that is afraid of losing you is love that knows your value. The fear is not a problem to solve or a weakness to overcome. It is the most accurate possible measurement of what you mean to someone. It is their heart telling them, and through this reading now telling you exactly how much the loss of you would cost, exactly how real and exactly how enormous and exactly how completely yours this love is. You are worth being afraid of losing. You are worth the full, frightened, I am putting everything on the line to say this declaration. You are worth the shaking hands and the vulnerable honesty and the complete dropping of every protective layer in the service of telling you the truth. Receive it that way, as evidence of your worth, as the most honest possible testament to what you mean to this person, as the beginning of something that has already survived the fear of its own beginning and arrived, despite everything, at the decision to exist. They are in love with you, and they are terrified, and they are coming to tell you anyway. Meet them there. Tell me in the comments, did this find you somewhere tender today? Did someone come to mind whose particular combination of love and fear you have been sensing without having had it confirmed? Drop only if this reading touched something real. Tell me if you recognized yourself in the person being loved, if the qualities I described as the source of the fear matched something you know about your own particular kind of irreplaceability to the right person, because you are irreplaceable to this person. The fear is the proof, and the love is on its way to saying so out loud. Be ready to say something true back. With everything, Virgo, I will see you in the next one.